This is the Elsa Kurt Show.
Well, hey there. How you doing?
I'm good. I'm gonna chuckle every time I see that cartoon version of myself.
I keep finding ways to reuse it and to put it back in. I found another spot for it. I'm like, I love that thing so much. The only thing I don't like is that it looks like, I mean, we did it deliberately because we were doing a Christmas special. So was that the Christmas special? They were going to like duke it out over. Yeah, I think that's what it was.
Yeah.
And, we just loved it so much, but generally speaking, we really don't duke it out like hardly ever. Like
it's pretty rare.
Yeah.
Super rare. We probably should argue more. It'd probably be better for the show, maybe, I think.
I know. People would like to see that. Isn't that sad that that's kind of what sells, so to speak, that,
Always. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm sorry, guys.
We're just conflict.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I'm sorry. We are just not conflict driven people, at least not with each other. I mean, if you give us a reason, I'm sure both of us have no problem bringing the heat.
Well, hang around to the end of the show, folks. There's a comment in there that Elsa got a little riled up about. So if you hang around to the end, after we go through our 5 or 6 topics we've got, and Elsa's she got a little riled up on one of the comments. And so hang around till the end, but we'll get started right after this.
From the Super Bowl's political fireworks to a chilling kidnapping mystery, we're diving into foreign meddling in our politics, the creeping socialism wave, California's tax trap biting hard, and if anyone's still tuning into the Olympics, buckle up. Truth doesn't play games. Welcome to the Elsa Kurt Show with Clay Nova.
All right. So, yeah, we got a whole bunch of good stuff. I am weirdly excited to talk about this, considering the fact that I didn't watch any of it. I went to a Super Bowl show. I went to a Super Bowl party.
Yep.
Didn't watch a single second of it. Was enjoying some great conversations, some ridiculously good, bad choices, food. And so weird that I'm excited to talk about it. As everybody knows, the Super Bowl just wrapped up with the Seahawks steamrolling the Patriots 29-13. Is that a steamrolling? I don't know if that's a steamrolling. I don't know.
The game was. If you watched the game, first of all, the first half was potentially the most boring half of Super Bowl football in history.
I did hear that circulating.
12-0 at halftime. Texting with my friends. I was at a Super Bowl party as well. And texting with friends all over the country, all over the world. And we were talking about who bet on what. And a lot of the guys the over-under for betting, if you're a bettor, was 45 total points. Okay. And I had a bunch of friends that bet the over. I said at halftime, I was like, probably not going to hit that. And they didn't. So, but the first half was boring, very boring. And then we rolled into halftime.
How about that? Was there something interesting about that? Was it?
Well, it depends on who you are and where you were sitting.
It does very much depend on all of that. So true. The real tackle came from Bad Bunny. His little halftime show where he was waving the Puerto Rican flags and slamming ice, and people were twerking all up against each other and blah, blah, blah. Most of the conservatives, from what I understand, or at least a lot of them, tuned into Turning Point USA's counter halftime show with Kid Rock and a bunch of other artists. And it was dubbed as, the patriotic America celebration, which got great reviews, great ratings. Comparatively, the halftime had I think it was 125 million versus I think ultimately 50 million. They hit 50 million streams, which is a big hit for that's a big hit on the NFL. I saw lots of video of people just kind of recording that were at bars and stuff watching. And nobody was paying even an ounce of attention to the screen. There was one that I saw where the owners were, they had both sides of the aisle there. Half of the people wanted one halftime show, the other half wanted the other. So he played neutral, and he put some TVs with TPUSA and the others with the NFL halftime. And the big thing about that was that the people who wanted TPUSA didn't really say anything at all about the Bad Bunny show happening on the other side of the room, versus the people watching the Bad Bunny halftime gave this bar and this owner went right away to Google reviews or Yelp and was giving them 1 star and trashing, just being absolute jerks. But there's all that.
How it is. That's what they do.
That's what they do, and they definitely they're consistent. They're consistent. But about this Dirty Rabbit, I mean, so this is the guy that they promoted as being this wonderful thing. This is obviously not his halftime show footage, but this is just a little taste of some of the things that he does and the way he presents himself. So that's charming. I mean, that's sweet, very wholesome, very American, very value driven. It's awesome, right?
So at the Super Bowl party you were at, what did they do?
Ignored it. I mean, that was a perfect time. Everybody so we left like right around then. We were there for maybe like the first, I don't know, a few minutes, I guess, of that. But that was like kind of our like cue that we were ready to leave, regardless of the show. It actually had nothing to do with the show. It was just time to head home. But as we were leaving, I think there were maybe 3 people watching it. And I think just simply out of curiosity, like what's the big fuss all about? But mostly everybody used that as the time to like go for the bathroom break, to go grab some more food, to have your conversations, which in fairness is fairly typical, I think, of any halftime event. That's when you do that stuff. So this did not, let's put it this way. I don't think that this drew attention from viewers any more so than any previous show, and most likely even less. Here's the thing for me. The obvious is that the whole spectacle alienated fans, which I think is profoundly stupid. Instead of using this opportunity to unite people, like here's a crazy thought. Let's do something that unites everyone. Let's do something that's totally neutral that everybody can get on board for. Like, I don't know what that is at this point in time, but at least make the effort. Instead, they double down. They're like, we're going to do whatever we can to offend and bother at least half the population, half of our viewership, which is so weird to me. Like you're trying to piss off paying patrons. Like it's such a weird choice to me. Now, I will say the flip side of that is I see a lot of big fuss being made over the fact that, and including from Dirty Bunny himself, that, it's about that he was going to only speak Spanish, no English, and get used to it or learn, that whole nonsense. And I feel like such a bigger deal was made over the Spanish only part, which is like, I don't know, it's kind of whatever for me, honestly. The bigger deal to me is that because it was all in Spanish, nobody knew what the heck he was saying for the most part. And so the people that did know what he was saying were basically like, what? The lyrics to his songs, when there's actual lyrics and not just grunting and repetitive sounds and, whatever else he does. The man has zero talent. Did you hear the isolated vocals from?
No,
It's so bad. It's just so bad. So this is not about talent. Like, let's make this very clear. This is not about talent. Anyone that wants to say that he's so talented, he's so gifted, you bought the propaganda. Congratulations. Like you are just a propaganda fool and tool really for all of this. But for me, the whole issue really is that because you don't know what he's saying in his lyrics, whether it's the ones he's saying there or from his other music, it's really all about degradation and objectification of women. It is vulgar, like extremely vulgar and crass and disgusting. And it has, again, I got to say, absolutely nothing to do with anything other than controversy and being gross and just parading degradation. All of it was just gross. That's the bigger deal to me, to be honest with you. Less about the Spanish speaking. I don't care as much about that because I don't know. I mean, I'm half Cuban and I do like Spanish music. That to me is not what Spanish culture, Hispanic and Latin culture is about. And for them to pass it off as, bleh, no, thank you.
Yeah, so I looked up a bunch of his lyrics beforehand because my Spanish is atrocious. And it is bad. You're right. The content of a lot of his songs is bad. Now, truthfully, I kind of tossed that out the window comparative to other Super Bowl performers because let's remind some folks of some things, right? And again, I will throw this out because of this. We had, Snoop Dogg, we had Eminem, we had, right? They're not known for, the best, cleanest lyrics in the world. The greatest halftime performance that my personal opinion is Prince, who also has been known for some not so very clean lyrics. Okay. And then, you can even go back and say, bands like Aerosmith, right? Who, kind of that's more in the mainstream America, or at least what a lot of the Super Bowl watchers would prefer would be that kind of music. Also some not so clean lyrics. So the lyrical part of his music, I care less about, except, mostly because I knew that the FCC, nobody was going to allow him to use those lyrics on the show. There's no way. So that's part of it. I didn't like from the beginning, the whole, you've got 4 months to learn Spanish, get over it. But I know that this is the NFL. This is two things about this. One, Jay-Z is on the committee for selecting the halftime show. So if you go back, it's been a while since, hasn't been a hip hop or dance type halftime show, direct Jay-Z influence. But also the NFL is trying to go international. They're trying to increase their international footprint and make themselves more of an international brand. And this is the entirely Spanish-speaking halftime show, I have no doubt is part of that. They're increasing their overseas regular season games over the next few years, and this is part of it. I will tell you that their goal, and Americans are not going to want to hear this. You know me, I'm a soccer guy. Okay. My favorite statistic of the day was that about somewhere between 155 and 160 million people watched the Super Bowl. Okay. The pinnacle of American sport, the Super Bowl, single game, 160 million people. Sunday morning, there was a regular season, non-playoff, nothing, just a regular season English soccer match between Manchester City and Liverpool that had 750 million watchers.
What?
Okay.
What?
So yeah, no kidding. And that's not an exaggeration, folks. You can look it up, but that's reality.
Wow.
Okay. Those are the numbers that the NFL is chasing globally because they want to become that big. And I think that this selection of Bad Bunny in an all Spanish, they're trying to draw more of an international audience. If you saw the inside of the stadium, have you seen any of that film footage?
I've seen a couple clips TikTok.
One, dead silent.
Yeah.
Like there was nobody cheering. There was nobody singing along. There was and also nobody dancing. I saw probably 5 or 6 different, phone scans. And I saw across those 5, maybe 7 or 8 people actually dancing along. Everybody else stock still, not understanding anything, not singing along. And it was dead silent. So inside the stadium, it was a disaster. But the Super Bowl party I was at was they turned on TPUSA. And you can play, devil's advocate on this. A lot of people who watched didn't know the country performers. Were they great performances? Sure. Did most people know their songs or know who they were? No. And that's why they had their name written in lights on the walkway so people knew who they were. The production value was not great.
I did hear that. I heard that the sound quality was not.
It was not great. And I heard today, and somebody please jump in the comments, but I heard today that Kid Rock admitted it was pre-recorded.
Interesting.
So I thought it was live. There were some sound issues, which I attributed to live performance,
Sure.
And it happens. But I did hear today that it was pre-recorded. I don't know if that's true or not. But here's the thing is that Kid Rock was still singing when the game started. And now the Super Bowl party I was at, everybody was there to watch the game.
Right.
They did turn on TPUSA at halftime, but they were there to watch the game.
Yeah.
And they had picture-in-picture. And as soon as kickoff happened, boom, right back to the football game. They cut off the halftime show.
Yeah.
So there was a little bit in there that, probably could have been better. I think overall, I think it was a -5 plus 5 million, right?
Sure.
I think was the numbers I heard. So 5 million tuned out and went to TPUSA across all of the Rumble and YouTube and everything else. But like you said, most people just left it on and they went and did other things and they ignored it because that's what you do at halftime.
That's what you do.
So there's a false presentation of, however many 100 million people tuned into halftime to watch Bad Bunny. And I would tell you that is a pretty bad representation of what actually happened. Were there TVs tuned? to the halftime show? Sure, there were.
Of course.
Was it were 150 million people watching? I would tell you no.
Yeah, exactly.
That's not what happened. So,
And as usual, I mean, it's just another perfect example of both sides of doing the same thing, all of the same thing. And I think that's where, and more, and listen, let me just preface by saying I am a diehard conservative Christian. Nothing will change that ever. However, I will say I am pulling further away from just all the polarizing mindsets and bandwagon things and all of those things. And I'm never going to be on the side of the left. These are all givens and they should be without saying. But I'm just really right now, it's like everybody's got to get kind of called out here. And the whole boycott culture, I saw the calls for boycott. That's, it's right there. Boycott and canceling to me are, neck and neck with being like the same thing. Because I choose not to watch the whatever it is. I mean, obviously in this case, we're talking about the halftime show, Super Bowl, for me, generally NFL in general. I simply choose not to watch it because it doesn't align with my values and my beliefs and my morals. If you or anybody else wants to watch it, that's your choice. I'm not calling on anyone to boycott anything. To make your own decisions based on your own perspectives and beliefs, and that's it. So I never like seeing those things like everybody boycott the NFL and blah, blah, blah. And, as for TPUSA, I think it's a great alternative. Like it's a great alternative. And hopefully if they do it again next year, they'll learn from whatever mistakes that they made. Then maybe they'll get more acts on board that have more popularity, that people know better. That's wonderful. But you can't win no matter what you frickin' do, because there were people widely criticizing the Kid Rock performance because he started off with one of his hits that's pretty raunchy and rough, and then he ended up with this song that everybody's been talking about, and I'm already forgetting the name of it because I didn't watch that either, guys. I'm sorry. But I guess what people were missing about those song choices, they were criticizing the song choice, the first one, that it was inappropriate, that it was vulgar, that it was just as bad as whatever Dirty Rabbit was doing. But I guess the understanding is that he was giving a redemption arc. Here's where he started and here's where he's at now, which I think is a beautiful thing. And, as far as I'm concerned, as being somebody on the right, conservative, Christian, first and foremost, really, care less about small things and focus on the bigger picture, that here's a guy who, lived or maybe still does a certain lifestyle that maybe doesn't fit the image. But he is still somebody who is bringing people to Jesus potentially. So let's just be kinder and just be better than our counterparts. Just for once, can we do that? And that's kind of the place where I'm at with all of this. I just get exhausted from the hypocrisy and the BS and, the fluff and filler that people keep inserting into every single thing. Ugh, just stop.
Yeah, there's and we'll talk about this when we talk about the taxes in California, but just a little bit of a teaser, hang in for that topic. But this may be the last Super Bowl you see in the state of California under their current tax code. And we'll explain why when we get to that one here in a few minutes.
Yeah. Well, if you want, we can even go right to that now if you want.
Yeah, why don't we? And so, folks, we're talking about the impact of the current tax code in the state of California and what it is about to do to that state. We've already seen some indicators. There's a lot of Hollywood that has slowly been moving there. And I'm not talking about the people. I'm not even talking about the offices. I'm talking about the actual work and industry because of California and their taxes and how they tax businesses and those things. Like Hollywood, which really has made Southern California, is moving their work out of not just California, into other states. Texas, Georgia notoriously has given great tax breaks for decades to film production. But a lot of it is moving to Canada for the same reason. But, the state of California, and touching back on the Super Bowl, we'll give an example. So the winning quarterback from the Seattle Seahawks for winning the Super Bowl was paid an additional $178,000. That was his performance bonus, or part of the winner's package that the league pays out. $178,000, because he was in California for 7 days, including the game, right? The lead up, both of the teams are all there, right? And they're there for the whole week prior to practice and, press conferences and all those things. He is going to be charged an athlete tax by the state of California in excess of $250,000. He is going to pay $70,000 for winning the Super Bowl in California. He's going to come out on the negative. And listen, that's the quarterback, folks. So every athlete on both teams, by the way, the Patriots lost the Super Bowl, right? So they're still going to, their income for being on the team is going to get taxed. And then their, whatever bonuses and whatever else they made is also going to be taxed. Now,
that's insane.
It's crazy.
It's insane.
Now, and on top of it, it may actually get worse because Seattle is in the same division. They played a game against the Rams and they played a game against, I think, the 49ers in California earlier this season. So add on 3 to 4 more days of being in the state of California, plus more income for them. And the state of California is going to tax them on all of that. So the Players Association is already speaking up about this, right? The union that represents the players, and they are already voicing their opinion that under the current conditions, they should never, ever play a Super Bowl in the state of California again because the players are being punished because of a decision by the league. But that's the California tax code, folks. You've got other kind of issues going on right now. Do you know Valero gas stations? Right? So they are closing an entire refinery in the state of California.
Whoa.
And listen, folks, a refinery, like it takes a decade to build one of these things. And it is about two things. One, it's about their environmental policies, but it's also about the taxing of the company and the taxing because of the refinery itself. So Valero is just shutting it down, a whole refinery. And then I heard late yesterday, that Mr. Zuckerberg, like many other billionaires, is leaving California. He is picking up and moving to the state of Florida because the taxing of the uber rich. And I know a lot of people out there are in favor of taxing the uber rich, but they're not obligated to stay there. And he is exercising his American right to go somewhere else.
Absolutely.
And now the state of California is going to lose all of his tax revenue.
And herein lies the ironic stupidity of the whole hyper chant of tax the rich. You forget it's the rich who employ all of the poor or all of the middle, or, whatever the case is. The rich are the ones who own the corporations that the people work at. So you're not hurting them. You're hurting the people who live and work there for them. So, congratulations, you idiots, for voting these scumbags in who just keep taking and taking and taking. And by the way, mismanaging to a criminal degree your money, your taxes. Where do you think those taxes are going? What are they going to do? Have they rebuilt those neighborhoods that were ravaged by fire? How are they looking? Yeah, how are they looking?
Nothing. They're still trying to build that rail system, which is, millions, tens, hundreds of millions of dollars in debt. Haven't done a thing with it, right? The question is, when is California really, and they're already paying the price, don't get me wrong, but when are these moves like this, like never bring the Super Bowl back here, right? And that is going to become very public to the people in the state of California to know that in San Diego, in Los Angeles, in the Bay Area, like this is never happening again. So that happens. And then you have the large businesses like Valero, right? They're picking up and moving. You've got Hollywood moving. You've got billionaires moving, and they're all leaving. And so the economic impact of all of this has not yet been felt by the state of California. They're in dire straits as it is, but it's going to get worse.
They have a projected $18 billion deficit projected. Yeah, $18 billion deficit projected. Nice.
But there is a light on the horizon, folks, and that is because the state of California, when they do their political primaries, they don't do it by party for governor. They do it a little different in California. It is the top 2 vote getters, regardless of party, in the preliminary right, in the
Yeah.
prelim, who get to go to the final election. So
Mm-hmm.
the two top vote getters in all of the early prelims, they get on the final ballot. And
Mm-hmm.
that's it. And right now, those top two vote getters are conservative Republicans.
All right. All right. All right.
So there is potential there as much as, who was it? Was it Swalwell? Who was it that jumped in and said they were going to run for governor to replace Newsom? I know there was, your girl Kamala's name was in there for a little while. That's kind of off, but there was somebody else that popped in lately. But the reality is that there is potential light at the end of the tunnel for the state of California in that.
I hope so for them.
There may be, there's so many liberals right now running, and they're all crappy candidates, but there's a couple of decent Republicans, including the current or former sheriff from LA County is running, and he is one of the leading vote getters. But right now it looks like there's potentially two Republicans as the only two candidates for the governor of the state of California when Governor Newsom leaves. But again, folks, when Valero closes this refinery, like that's not a simple, we've got a Republican back in. Well, we'll go back and we'll turn the lights back on and we'll start back up again. That's not how that works. This is a significant, they've got to change the tax code. They've got to give tax relief. They're going to have to rehire and retrain people. Like if this goes for a couple of years, this is very likely to be a permanent move brought on by the current state level administration.
It's just wild to me. And I really do feel for Californians, and I know quite a few who I've spoken to, and they're like, don't judge us by our governor.
Sure.
We're not on board for this. This is not what we voted for. This is not what we wanted. We even got, I don't know if you've seen this or if you would even know who he is, but he was a reality TV personality years ago. I forget the name of the show, some California based thing, but his name's Spencer Pratt. And
I know who that is.
You know who that is? He's married to Heidi Montag, and these are like reality star people from back in the day, the early days of reality TV stuff. And, they've made careers off of that, and good on them for it. But he and his wife, they lost their home to the fires, along with, of course, many other people. And he has gone full war paint attack mode on Newsom and the mayor there and all of them. And he's been uncovering these, he's just blown up on social media, and he's going after him, and he's making everything public, and he's calling him out on all of the things, this mismanagement, the lies, all of the things. And now he is running for, I don't know what he's running for. I don't know if he's running for mayor or what, but he's running for office in California. And I think he's actually picking up some steam. So good on him. And again, he falls into that Hollywood crowd, even if he's just maybe fringe considered. He's part of that crowd. And so he's another one of those examples that we've talked about before of people breaking away from that, lockstep mentality that they tend to have in that crowd. And he is making them nervous. He's making them uncomfortable, which is good. That's what you got to do.
Yeah. And, California's been back and forth over the years, folks. There's been a number of in and out conservative governors that have done pretty well for themselves. And then, you have a flip flop. For whatever reason, and you get somebody like Newsom in there who's been there forever, longer than he should be, truthfully. And then you have decisions being made, and you get into a place where they're at now. And so I'm glad folks are going to step in and make a change. And I'm glad that hopefully they can save the state of California from its own self-inflicted wound and get things back on track. But we'll have to wait and see. Keep an eye on that governor's race in California, folks. Listen, that's no joke for the rest of the United States. People are worried about New York, but California is like, it has its own economy. It is, and access, obviously the ports and everything, access to trading through the Pacific and all that is a big deal. So we need California to get its act together.
Yes.
And we'll have to watch and wait and see what happens.
Yeah. It'll be interesting for sure. Let's move on to, my goodness, this whole thing is so crazy. It's so crazy. And I know there's a reasonable number of people, and I've heard this and I took a little time to contemplate it, that were like, why is this national news? Why is this taking so much of the news cycle? 84-year-old Nancy Guthrie, which is the mother of Savannah Guthrie, she vanished from her Tucson home in what they're calling a brazen abduction with ransom notes, demanding, $6 million and chilling. So the doorbell footage is very disturbing. I don't know if I don't have that on here. It is, watching that footage, it's like, it does give you chills. But it shows a masked gunman tampering with cameras, and her family, Savannah and her siblings, have been, on the news, reading, prepared statements requesting for their mother's safe return. Lots of speculation going on, lots of false. Were those ransom notes determined false?
So there were some that were false.
Yeah,
They have discounted completely. But there was, I heard today, the ones that they have taken seriously. There was, I saw a headline that said a payment was made to the account. So it sounds like maybe there is some money being exchanged in hopes that Nancy Guthrie is returned. But I know there were some fake ones out there in the initial part, which, somebody's just trying to make some money off of somebody else's bad plan. But it is what it is.
Yeah. Important to note here, guys, like we always try and remind you, we are recording on Wednesday. You will see this on Thursday. A lot can happen between now and then. So if you're saying something more has happened since, as you're watching this, it's because we recorded the day before. So don't yell at us in the comments that we're wrong. We very well could be at this point. So we're telling you the information that we have up until this point right now. I want to know what you think, like, to the people who are saying things like, stop making this national news, like this is the most important thing because it's the mother of a celebrity and blah, blah, blah. What do you have to say to that? Because I was like, I get what you're saying. I get that, there's so many things that happen in the world that are as tragic and awful and don't even get a fraction of the news cycle attention. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I would tell you have to ask yourself why. Why is it national news?
Yeah.
And listen, I've been seeing it and hearing it literally from all kinds of people that are like, God, I wish that there's other things going on. Is there not another news story? Why do they keep talking about this? And it's a valid question, but you have to look beyond that and actually ask the question and try and think through why it is getting as much attention as it is. And I will tell you, I personally don't think this has anything to do with money, because let's be honest, every newscaster has parents, every newscaster has family, there is a reason why Nancy Guthrie specifically was kidnapped. And I am telling you, my gut feeling is it has nothing to do with $6 million in Bitcoin. Okay.
Right.
The story that people are not talking about is who Savannah Guthrie's husband is.
Yes.
And if you haven't done any investigation into this, you need to. Savannah Guthrie's husband has been associated with the Clintons for decades. Decades, people. Okay. He is he's been labeled as a fixer for the Clintons, and has worked in multiple administrations or been a consultant, multiple administrations, multiple people within the Democratic side of politics. Anybody who ignores that fact and continues to say, well, I don't understand why they, kidnapped this old lady, what is it? I get it, her daughter's on TV, but who cares, right? I'm telling you, my gut tells me it's got nothing to do with Savannah Guthrie being on TV, how much she makes from whoever it is, NBC or CBS, and it has everything to do with who she is married to, okay? And so, again, folks, look up her husband, because he has been decidedly quiet, although I did just see he finally made a statement about this. And I don't know what it is because it literally just hit my phone a few minutes ago. But I've been saying all along that this doesn't make sense. This kidnapping, I know it's an expensive house. Okay, fine. I know it's an elderly woman. Okay, fine. But nobody would just randomly kidnap her and assume that there is money to pay a $6 million ransom. They asked very specifically for $6 million in Bitcoin. Like this was done well. And I know people are watching the Ring camera footage or whatever it is, and they're saying, well, this guy's a buffoon. He tried to cover the camera with some brush from the flower bed and whatever. Again, think beyond that. There's a lot of things going on. They were looking at cameras on rooftops. They were inspecting the manhole cover behind the house. My gut tells me this is professional. It's not haphazard. But it also is associated with Savannah Guthrie's husband, who again worked deeply for the Clintons for a very long time.
Yeah. And if we have learned nothing from the Epstein file dumps and everything associated with it, and the lack of accountability from bad actors thus far, it's that just about everything is a smokescreen. Everything we see is orchestrated to be what we're allowed to see. So, take that, put the drawing of a tinfoil hat on my head if you want. I don't care. When you start to know too many things about the ways of things, you can't unsee it and you can't unknow it. And I would rather be oblivious to all of it, to be honest with you. I would rather be just as clueless as everyone else. So knowledge may be power, but it's also really disturbing, to say the least. So,
yeah. And when you think critically about this and you say, okay, well, there was a deadline, right? There was an initial deadline for the ransom, which passed.
Right.
And then when it passed, normally, listen, folks, when kidnappers threaten something and it has to do with the ransom timeline, they're either prepared to do it or they've already done it. Right. So the ransom timeline passed, and then within 24 hours, they released the footage from the Ring camera. So somebody in law enforcement, and listen, folks, FBI's hostage rescue team, their HRT, which is one of the best in the world, it's already on site in Arizona. But they've decided that the risk of publishing that film footage was worth the risk.
Yeah.
So they're either assuming that these kidnappers are not going to kill, Nancy Guthrie, or that they have already killed Nancy Guthrie. But either way, they've done a risk assessment to say it's worth the risk to get the photos out. And so you got to think beyond the, God, I wish they would just turn this off, because like you said, it's associated with something. This is very much a shiny object. Look over here, squirrel, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
There's something else associated with this. Is not a random kidnapping of a rich old lady. That's not what this is.
Yeah. Yeah. The tip off, guys, for the question of, is this a psyop? is this what everybody's talking about? Is this the main focus? Like, if everybody's talking about this one thing or two or three things, take a moment and look around and figure out what they're not talking about. What else is going on in the world right now? And it might not be on our own doorstep. It might be, a lot of times it's international, right? That they're putting up, shiny, like you said, shiny objects to keep us distracted from something bigger, deeper, darker, more, all of the things. So, again, just that PSA, stop getting sucked into the obvious, the shiny object. And like you just said, Clay, I think that was supposed to use some critical thinking, just the pause. I think that's going to be our thing every week. We're going to say pause. Everybody hit pause.
Right.
Think bigger, think deeper, pay attention more. So yeah, let me ask the uncomfortable question. Do you think that she is alive?
No, I don't.
I don't either. That's my gut.
But for a number of reasons. One, again, the ransom timeline has passed. FBI decided to release the film footage, I think, based on her age and the fact that she was on medication of some sort. I think there's too many indicators that say that she is most likely. And I know that, and listen, I'm not trying to, make light of this, or, the Guthrie family is suffering through all of this. But chances are, if you play the odds, chances are she is already has been killed or died in the process of being killed.
Yeah. I tend to think the same. And for everybody playing amateur detectives at home, I hear all the accusations that the daughter and son-in-law are involved. They acted suspicious. I could tell by the way that she looked down, or that how many times she blinked, and
too much true crime.
Too much. Like you guys are not, we're not, like, I love all of us and I do these things as well. We're not body language experts, because somebody looked up to the left. It doesn't necessarily mean they may have seen a spider up in the corner. You know what I mean? Because somebody blinks. Guys, I wear contacts, and I just for example, and I've watched back our playbacks, and sometimes I'll see myself blinking a lot, and I'm like, oh my gosh, that looks awful. So much blinking. And it's like, if people only knew the fact that I wear contacts from the minute I wake up until the moment I pretty much go to bed. And as I'm doing this broadcast, I'm looking into a camera right this very second. And right behind that camera is the brightest, most obnoxious light. And every time that I look up at this camera and then look down, all I see are spots. So just so you know, so if you see me blinking, doesn't mean I'm nervous. Doesn't mean I'm lying. It means I can't freaking see, guys. Okay. So calm down. Nobody, as far as I know, nobody has said that in the comments, but I noticed it myself and it made me think of this and it kind of made me laugh. But yeah, listen, could that be the case that they are involved, that this is something way smaller? I mean, sure, anything is possible in this world, but let's not traumatize this family any more than they already are at this moment. You know, I mean, come on, wait.
Also,
we'll wait.
One last note, and I know I'll catch a little bit of crap for this too. The sheriff himself has been under a lot of fire because he went to a basketball game on Saturday night and, you know, some other things. And, you know, the expectation by a lot of people is that every single law enforcement officer in that county and probably in the state of Arizona and probably from the entire FBI should be focused on solving this. You can't operate like that for a lot of reasons. Right. One, that guy, after this is over with, that guy still has to be the sheriff. Okay. He can't run 24 hours on coffee and nicotine and hate, you know, until he collapses or until this thing is resolved. This is his job every single day, and there are a lot of other things going on every single day, and he knows and understands that there's a long game to this for his own sustainability. So the fact that he eats dinner or takes a break and goes to a basketball game, he's a human being on top of everything else. And I know he's taken a lot of crap in the press and on social media, and I would tell you that if you think that you can sustain like that, give me a call, because I have lived and operated in some of the worst environments ever. And I will tell you that no one can do that. I don't care who you are.
No.
So cut the guy some slack. Just be realistic about your expectations of who he is. Yeah.
Good on you for pointing that out, because it's just absurd. Again, lack of critical thinking. So just stop, people. Stop with the nonsense. What else we got? Let's move on to this one here. Clay, you know, I'm putting that right on you, Clay. Go. You know,
so the question, folks, is, you know, we worry, you know, about, or we worry about, especially like Russiagate was the thing, right? It was about influence peddling and affecting foreign entities, affecting United States elections, right? And we had, you know, Mike Flynn got in trouble. He got, you know, he got drug in. President Trump got accused. We all know that it was fake now, the dossier and all that crap, and, you know, Secretary Clinton, everything that she was responsible for. That does not remove the fact that there are foreign entities, businesses, foreign governments, and foreign individuals who influence our politics on a daily basis. You can talk about, and top of everybody's list is George Soros. He's the easiest one, right? Yeah. We see it all the time. We know his son is here. We know that, you know, his son is a U.S. citizen. We know that he spends most of his time outside of the United States, probably for his own safety. But he's not the only one, right? We know that China has bought a significant amount of property within the United States. We have got foreign-owned companies that operate inside the United States. We've got donations coming in from the Middle East, you know, into our political process. Donors and donations from corporations and individuals, right? Whether they're claimed or not. But all of that is happening. And I know that we have laws in place to, quote unquote, prevent, you know, foreign interference into our electoral process.
Yeah. How's that working out for us?
It's not. And that's my point is when are we collectively, the United States, and this is where it lands on the voters, because we know that our elected officials are the ones who are benefiting from this, truthfully. Right. And they're not going to be the ones to stop it. Yeah. But how do we, American citizens, step in and stop this from happening? And I don't really have an answer. But we have a problem collectively inside the United States with foreign influence interfering. And again, folks, it's not Russiagate. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the very low key stuff that's going on financially. Yeah. And it isn't even low key.
Right. Yeah. And I think, you know, that the most obvious problem is that it's so big. Everything is so big. The government is so big. Each state's internal government system is so big. It is virtually impossible to keep track of every little thing, because these people it's constantly shifting. You know, as soon as you uncover one thing, they've already moved on to another way to funnel money in, and different organizations. And I don't really know. You just can't, like, all you can do is just keep trying, basically, and keep shutting them down and keep investigating. And, you know, with the understanding that this is a never ending process. This isn't a one and done. This isn't a pass a law and now it's fixed. It's, you know, it's the constant management of that, in oversight of that. And it's huge. I just read, I just read in my notes that our politics are flooded with over $2.6 billion in foreign money, which is being funneled through nonprofits, which nonprofits crop up every minute of the day, like every minute of the day. So how are you going to investigate, and monitor every single one of those? We just simply don't have the manpower to do that. And that's what they bank on, obviously. But, these are what are fueling the anti-ICE protests and, of course, the left-wing chaos. It's pretty much guaranteed tied to China and to probably Russia and, all of the places that you just talked about. Minnesota obviously is the most glaring example of everything. And of course, they're not the only ones. That's not the only place. That's just the one under the microscope right now, which fortunately starts putting a microscope on other states and other cities and, hopefully more, what's his name? Nick Shirley's. Hopefully more Nick Shirley's will crop up all around, which I'm sure there are. It's happening. I know that it's happening. It just can never happen fast enough or wide enough, I think.
Yeah. And really, unfortunately, what this takes is a massive election law reform, right? We need reformation, like literally take all of the election laws, throw them out the window, start over again, maximize donations, eliminate donations. Like this is going to have to be a 180-degree turn. The problem is the people who would vote on and pass these laws are the people who are going to be punished by voting on and enacting these laws. So, we collectively, it has gotten we have allowed it to get out of control. And our, I think step one is term limits. It goes back to that as it does all of the time,
right?
On so many different issues. But I think it has got to turn into some sort of, mandated, you cannot accept donations over X amount of dollars. You cannot accept donations. And we have those in place. I think the caps have to come way, way down.
Yeah.
And then you've got to have certain entities are barred from donating.
Right.
So I think, and again, folks, I know these laws exist. I know they're in place.
Right.
One, they're not being enforced as they stand, but also they're way too open and lenient. And that's why, like Elsa said, they find a new way around it. As soon as a loophole is exploited and then it's found and then it's shut, they just find another loophole or they just start all over again from scratch. And it just becomes, but I think the answer is one is term limits, and two, they have to be much more restrictive. We've got to close as many of these loopholes as we have, because listen, folks, most of the donations going to both of our political parties, as you said, what was that, $2.6 billion? $6
billion,
right? Those are not, that's more than what they're getting from American citizens.
Yeah,
that's
absolutely.
Part of the problem.
Yeah, and I would add a number 3 to that, which would be way, way harsher penalties and consequences for that, life imprisonment. I don't care what you do, but make it so severe that it scares the daylights out of them from doing it. And that's what you have to do. I mean, there has to be this is the most basic understanding that we have to our core, that if there is a consequence to our actions, there is a deterrence to our actions, right? I mean, so that would be my addition to that. But I agree with you completely, Clay. So, it's on all of us to pay attention to, again, discernment, critical thinking.
We've got to.
Yeah. And, it's a pain in the neck. It's not fun to see, if you're donating, if you're somebody who donates to organizations, research that organization, know where the money's going, know what they stand for, know all of those things, all the way down to the products that we use, the things that we buy, the things that we purchase, know where they're coming from and what they support. And as best you can. You can only do as much as you can do. And, you start with, and I think that's a question we all ask, including myself, like, where do you even begin? Where do you start? Well, you start in your own little corner of the world and do what you can do in your space, right?
And so, transition to the next topic, folks. When we allow these things to happen inside the United States, the result is we get things like this. Not that long ago, inside of my lifetime, inside of your lifetime, socialists were basically on par with criminals in the political system within the United States. Like, being a socialist was, you go back into the 50s and 60s, like it literally was Joe McCarthy, like going after socialists in a criminal sense. But we've got socialism creeping, as it says, into America. And everybody knows Mamdani, right? And I would argue that he's more communist than a socialist, but he's probably the most visible. But what people aren't necessarily seeing is that the mayor of Seattle, other coast socialist, right? You've got socialists in places that in local state level governments that are on the rise. New Jersey is big, right? There's a huge increase, and you can, kind of attribute some of this to association with Mamdani, but New Jersey's big increase in socialists. Minnesota, obviously, in socialists, but it is cropping up in some places that you wouldn't expect. Some of the states on the east, southern, like in the southeast, like in the Carolinas, we're starting to see these things crop up, socialists at local political levels, and that's where they get their start. But it's disturbing. It should be disturbing for all of us that in our republic, democratic republic, let's keep that in mind, based on capitalism and Christian values, we have socialism on the rise in the United States. Yeah. And it is, I think, the biggest criminality of all of it is this thing right here. And we all need to be worried about this, because if this continues to grow and we start getting this at a national level, we have some problems. Because as an example, Mamdani just yesterday instituted, I think it's called the New York City. It's got to do with their Department of Health, right? Which under the mayor of New York City, the New York City Health Department of Health, they have a council or something like that. You would think it's focused on the interior, right, on New York City. And what it is talking about global issues. And the first thing they did was came out and they, went after Israel. It's New York City. It's their health department. Right. Like, why in the world are any of them worried about what's going on in Israel? Right. But this is what you get, is you get a local level, I get it, it's the biggest city in the country, but like their health department should not, and if you're from New York, you should be worried about this, because they're spending your taxpayer dollars worried about what's going on in Israel, right? Inside the city of New York. That's a problem.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, absolutely. They have their playbook. They have the whole playbook of what they do. It is so, I almost want to say cliche, but they do the same thing every time. It's the same result every time. Promise big thing. Well, first of all, let me take that back a little bit. They indoctrinate the youth, the kids. They stop educating them on real history and real economics, basically, which is huge, obviously, and history, of course. So they lie to them. They don't know any better, so they believe it, and they are taught what to think, not how to think. So you start there. So you got the youth, the children, as Whitney said, the children are our future.
Good or bad.
Right? Yeah. So if you're in control of their minds and what they think, you are already ahead. So you've got that. And then once they've got them hooked and listening, you start promising them all the things, and you start saying, they don't want you to have this. How come they all have that? That's not fair. And these kids, they don't know any better. And of course, I don't even know what to say with the adults, the grown ass adults that buy this hook, line, and sinker. They're just fools. I don't know what Kool-Aid they were drinking, but obviously some bad stuff, some Jim Jones kind of crap. But that's what they do. So they sell this big, bright, shiny, beautiful package of free this and free that, and everybody gets to do the same thing. And isn't that so much nicer? And then, like Venezuela, they get in and they collapse and destroy everything. And by the time everybody realizes what's happening, it is too late. You are destroyed, and it will take you decades to come back from it. And that's the goal. Yeah.
And listen, folks, again, you know this, I know this, we talk about it. Socialism has failed everywhere. It's been tried around the world. America's not going to do it better than everybody else, and it's not going to be okay. And I am a firm believer in the old adage, you can vote your way into socialism, but you have to shoot your way out of it. And this is the end. That is what will happen if we continue down this path. We as Americans cannot allow socialism. I don't care if you're a Democrat or Republican. I really don't. We can't allow socialism to become the norm anywhere in this country. We just can't let it happen.
Yeah, absolutely. Those are words to live by right there and to remember. And let's not make those words haunt us. Let them be a little rally cry of it's not going to happen. So Word to the wise, guys. So that's a good one. Let's talk about this here. We're getting towards the end here, but I want to touch on this quickly. Dude, I got to be honest. I didn't even know the Olympics were on until didn't even know until the only reason I knew what's her name, Lindsey Vonn. Is that who?
Yeah, correct.
Yeah, that was like the first thing that I saw about it. I was like, when did this happen? When was this guy? And I was like, oh, it's like right now. It's right now. It's happening now. I had no idea. I don't watch any mainstream TV. I watch like reruns of old shows. That's kind of like all I actually watch. So I had no idea. Sorry, guys.
Yeah, I think there's a couple of contributing factors. One of them is, back in the old days when we had like 3 channels, I remember as a kid, like, I think it was ABC most of the time, or maybe it was NBC.
You had no choice. You were watching it.
That was it. It was on 24 hours a day. The Olympics, no matter where it was going on in the world.
Yep.
And we didn't have DVR and we didn't have those things. So if you wanted to watch ice hockey, USA versus whoever, and it was on at 3 o'clock in the morning, you had to get up and watch it, right?
Right.
But there were other things, like you used to go into McDonald's. You remember they used to have the board that tracked gold medals by country, right?
Yes.
I think that was more summer than winter, but there was all of those things because we didn't have 5 million options.
Right.
We had the newspaper, we had 3 channels on the TV, there were no smartphones, there was no internet. So our access to information now, like nobody watches the games anymore. They just watch to see if we won. That's really what it boils down to.
Right. Catch a couple highlights. Yeah.
Right. But also you've got a lack of, in this country, national pride, and it's coming out by our athletes. We've had a number of athletes, some skiers and some other folks who have said flat out, I'm not cool with America right now. I don't really support, I'm here for my friends and my family. I'm not really here for the country. And there's a lot of backlash going back and forth, from other athletes that are there, from former athletes, Michael Ruzioni from the old 1980 Olympic hockey team that basically said, if you're not there for the USA, pack your crap and go home.
I love my hockey players.
Right?
I love hockey.
There's a lot of that. But I think, we have lost, the United States has lost the focus and emphasis on the Olympics. It's been overshadowed by pro sports. There's a million reasons why we don't care about the Olympics anymore. And so it's suffering. We touched on it a couple of weeks ago, maybe it was last week when we were talking about college funding, NIL and that. And so we're starting to lose some of those Olympic sports at college level competition. So overall, I think we are losing the love for the Olympics, with some exceptions. People will always love figure skating.
Yeah.
Personally, but people love it, right?
Yeah.
We love, certain things, certain sports, both summer and winter Olympics, that we always pay attention to. But I think overall, the United States, we don't care much about the Olympics anymore.
Right.
We really don't.
And from the conservative, or this conservative's perspective, listen, we have ideology fatigue, we have wokeism fatigue, and it seeps into everything, and everything that it seeps into, it destroys. It absolutely destroys. And this is another case of it. I was reading up on it. Like I said, I had to read up and see what was going on. And of course, it's plagued with, controversy and trans this and trans that and everything. And it's like, once upon a time, we used to rally around the Olympics because of obviously national pride and all of that. But it was a in a good way, a spectacle and a celebration of excellence, in their lane, their field, their sport. And we watched for that, like to be so proud of our country and to admire and respect the talent and skills and dedication that it takes to be able to do the things that they were doing, whether it's, figure skating or whatever else, all of the things. And now it's all political BS. It's all, culture wars over this and that.
Listen,
and it's
like, the 1980 Olympics, when the boycott happened, right? The United States boycotted the Olympics. That was massive news. There were athletes that for decades beyond that were like, listen, I was at the peak of my game. I was on the 80 Olympic team, and then we didn't go, and it was resentful. But it was huge, right? That was a massive news story. I think now, because, like you said, it's fatigue. Everything is so political. And listen, you go back to the 60s, Olympics, you had the African American, the Black Power, right? A little political statement. So it's not that the Olympics have been devoid of politics, but when politics stepped into the Olympics, it was a big deal. Now it's all the time, literally all the time. They've had athletes, under the refugee flag from countries that don't exist or that they can't perform, right? That's a thing. And you can even go so far to argue, Puerto Rico, U.S. territory, who is they argue all the time that they want to be part of the United States. They
Mhm.
perform and compete separately from the United States at the Olympics.
Yeah. So
Right?
explain that one to
So
me, right?
again, it's political, whether you agree with
Mhm.
it or not. It is political. So
Yeah.
I think that has stained the Olympics as a whole, and I think that's why we are tired of it. And I think
Yeah.
between that and the access over the phone,
Right.
specifically, I think we've lost the love for the Olympics.
Yeah. Literally every public industry is polluted now. Entertainment, sports, you name it. The most obvious, news media, everything has been polluted by division, really, and the sowing and selling of division. That is what, if you want to break everything down to a very basic problem, that's it right there. If you are a musician, take a lesson from Elvis Presley, who said, I'm just a singer. I'm just a music man. I just perform. Give me back my football. Just play the damn sport. I don't care about your political beliefs. I don't care if you agree with me or disagree with me politically. I don't want to know. I would rather just watch you excel and be the best at what you do and compete against other people who are the best at what they do or in their, capacity. Can we just have that, guys? Can we please?
And listen, folks, we've got 2 big events in the next 2 years coming to the United States that will, I think, determine our future path on international competition. We're hosting the World Cup this summer, which has already been politicized by a number of people, including President Trump. So that is, that's coming up very, very quickly. But also, we have the Summer Olympics in 2 years.
Yeah.
Our response, our participation, how we act, and how we pay attention to the Olympics in 2 years that are going to go on here in the United States, I think is the greatest indicator of all on what our future path looks like, because we go into I don't care mode in the 2028 Olympics that we host. I think the Olympics are forever lost in the United States, unrecoverable.
Yeah, I think that's sad from, just if I were to even just bring it down to nostalgia, like just from that, like it's sad.
Sure.
It makes me feel sad because I do remember watching. And then I actually remember being annoyed with with the sports that I didn't care about. I was like, oh, this is the only thing that's on. I remember that, but it's okay. I would rather go back to that. When you look back at things, it's like, oh. So I don't know, guys. I guess our goal here is to not to succumb, as I often do, to the apathy of it all, because they just wear you down, and that's not a good place to be. So, care less about stupid things and care more about meaningful things. I mean, that's how I would sum it up. Speaking of, let's go to our last one real quick. Our comments. So I'm going to start with a rant and end with a rave, if that's okay with you, Clay.
Good, I like it.
And I did not want to miss a single point, so I pre-apologize to you guys. I'll be reading probably a good bit of my.
You have a prepared statement?
I have a prepared statement here.
Oh.
Yes.
I knew you were not happy, but wow. All right.
Yeah, because it's emblematic of a widespread thing. So here is the comment. This was on our video, or technically our reel from last week's show, talking about it was my strongly stated opinion that ICE agents should be permitted to keep their masks on up in protection of not only themselves, but even more so their families, because they were being targeted by these raging lunatics. And I would say probably 98% of the comments that I saw across multiple platforms were in agreement with us on that. And then you have the stands come in with their absurd, cliche, typical statements. And for those of you listening and not watching, I'm going to read it to you. Stan said, wrong. It's not the fault of those against ICE. It's the fault of these ICE holes. He's so witty. Violating principles embedded in the Constitution, ! Are we supposed to feel sorry for these Nazis? Oh, look, the Nazis again. Well, that's original, right? Let's see. Are we supposed to feel sorry for these Nazis terrorizing our communities, breaking down doors, tear gassing innocent protesters, trespassing, breaking car windows and dragging citizens out into the street, kidnapping citizens and children, and defiantly murdering? I don't know if he's saying definitely murdering or if he meant to say defiantly, but whatever, that's what he has there. And so here is my response to Stan and anyone who agrees with Stan. So the first thing I'm going to address is that Stan gripes about violating principles embedded in the Constitution. So wrong, Stan, dead wrong. ICE follows congressional, sorry, my screen just closed on me. ICE follows congressional authority straight from Article 1, Section 8. They knock, they announce, and force entry only when fugitives resist. No rogue stuff, just upholding the laws we demand. That Nazi bomb that you dropped is pathetic, Dan. Nazis slaughtered millions in camps. Stan. Stan. You're going to get your name heard or said a lot in this. Stan. So Nazis slaughtered millions in camps. ICE boots out scum like rapists and child abusers. One day, they snagged 5 violent thugs, part of a 675,000 removals and 2.2 million self-deportations since January 2025. 70% convicted crooks, including 1,000 predators, yanked in a holiday operation. You're equating that to genocide. You sound absolutely ridiculous, Stan. You're terrorizing our communities is baloney. Neighborhoods thrive when ICE hauls off gangbangers and dodgers. Laken Riley's murder. How about that one? You remember that one? You probably don't, because you probably don't care about her murder. That's the nightmare from weak borders. And those Colorado radicals tipping off child rapists, Stan, they were tipping off child rapists. You must be so proud of them and yourself. That's despicable. So we've watched West Virginia and Maine spots reclaim safety after nabbing 650 plus threats and thousands more. Real terror comes from protesters chucking rocks and Molotovs, jacking agent assaults up 1,300% and death threats 8,000%. And you think that's okay? You think that's okay for them to get death threats? Okay. Breaking down doors, tear gassing innocent protesters, trespassing, this whole thing, breaking car windows, dragging citizens up, this whole nonsense, which it's pure overblown drama from you. Doors are breached with warrants, tear gas hits back at rammers and weaponized mobs in Minneapolis. Trespassing? Wrong. No, sir. That is lawful. The windows breaking as necessary. If it's required, if it needs to be done, it's going to be done. Don't care if you don't like it, if it doesn't look nice to you, Stan. And by the way, dragging citizens, that one, really, it's more like fending off rioters hiding behind the I'm a citizen shield. Do us all a favor, Stan. Step away from CNN. And then last of all, kidnapping citizens and children is a total myth. No abductions. It's just enforcing orders on 1.4 million finals. Oh, no, I'm sorry. One last one. You're defiantly or definitely murdering. Cases like Renee Good and Alex Preddy are honestly self-defense against aggressors, not murder. They put themselves in awful situations. Their deaths are absolutely tragic and should have never happened, and that falls squarely on them. I don't care if you don't like it. I don't care if you disagree. That is my position on that one. And all I'm going to say to you, Stan, is that your comments are ignorant, false, and it spits on actual Nazi victims. So you should be ashamed of yourself. Maybe watch some survivor stories or, I don't know, some real history before you make idiotic comments like that one. And that goes for every single person that drops the Nazi comment in anything like this. I'm so sick and tired of that despicable comment being put out. Grow up, Stan. And also, have a blessed day. So that's my rant. Do you need to add anything to that?
Nope.
Okay.
Nope. All you.
Thank you. Thank you. Now that I just stomped my foot and stood on my soapbox, I want to close on this here. And I'm so thrilled that somebody commented on this. Peaches said, this was in regards to the Grammys. She said, we got back then, she's referring to that, we got to see real stars and that there's very few left. And then she ended her comment with, Jelly Roll was awesome. And Jelly Roll was awesome. And if you did not, like me, until after the fact, or maybe haven't seen it at all, this was Jelly Roll's, a part of Jelly Roll's speech for winning the Grammy. I'll probably cry, so just ignore me, guys. Here we go.
There was a time in my life, y'all, that I was I was broken. That's why I wrote this album. I didn't think I had a chance, y'all. There was days that I thought the darkest things. I was a horrible human. There was a moment in my life that all I had was a Bible this big and a radio the same size and a 6x8 foot cell. And I believed that those two things could change my life. I believed that music had the power to change my life and God had the power to change my life. And I want to tell y'all right now, Jesus is for everybody. Jesus is not owned by one political party. Jesus is not owned by no music label. Jesus is Jesus, and anybody can have a relationship with him. I love you, Lord.
Yep, you got me again. Got me again. I'm crying. I don't even care. Yes. Listen, I don't think whatever you will of Jelly Roll, of his music, of his presentation, of his past, his present, his wife. Think whatever you want. It's all good. All I know is what I stated before talking about, I think, Kid Rock. If you are bringing people to Jesus, that is a beautiful, wonderful thing. God will sort all of it out. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about his past. Don't worry about other things that he says. Don't worry about his lyrics. Don't worry about it. You have your relationship with him. Let Jelly have his, and let him bring people to have their relationship. And that is the note that I wanted to close on for myself. Clay, you close them out with whatever you want to say.
Hey, and listen, he is the American system in action. He is somebody who grew up challenged, made some poor decisions, judged and sentenced by a jury of his peers, as our system dictates. And he paid his debt to society, and he came out better on the other side, and has made some life changes, and good for him. So I'm on board with that. That's the way America works, folks. That's the way it's supposed to be. Maybe not, we would prefer you don't make the bad decisions on the front side, but when you do, you own it. You pay your debt and you move on. So good for him. But hey, great show, folks. A long one, but a lot of great things to talk about. A lot of things that need to be said, and we are very thankful that you pop in. Again, keep it in the comments, and you might become famous. Elsa might have a prepared statement with your name on it.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see. But hey, we do appreciate everybody tuning in, whether it's on video or audio. And as always, for me, keep moving, keep shooting.
Take care, guys. We'll see you in the next one.
The headlines will change by tomorrow, but the patterns won't. Thanks for spending this time with us. We'll be back to keep asking the harder questions and telling the quieter truths. Until then, stay grounded, be discerning, and we'll see you next time.